Back with Bruce Mitchell from the Sheets on Spring Garden Street. March Madness going on with wrestling. Bruce is the king of the ring reporters from ProWrestlingTorch.com. Now
follow me on Twitter at Mitchell PW Torch.
I talk about the wrestling dirt sheets. Does the Torch still print a version each week?
Absolutely.
It's still mailed out each week.
I wrote a column for it. Yeah, it's a piece of paper and everything. I mean, it's on paper, and you've got all kinds of podcasts to listen to. It's more of a podcast business now, like what we're doing right now, and just almost 30 years of a library to read and look through, and then 70 podcasts a month, including 3 that I do every week, and of course we'll have our big WrestleMania roundtable, an hour and a half maybe after WrestleMania, going up, and people really enjoyed that. I mean, that's Pro Wrestling Torch is an institution.
Is it an identical version, the Torch on the sheets, identical to the online version, or some exclusive parts each way? I know you've got audio on the web, but what about the written part versus the online part? Are they pretty much the same as what you print?
The written part and the online part are there. And we have clientele that want to get the newsletter, and they it's a part of their routine, and they want the paper part. And then we have people that Tuesday or this is Wednesday, so Wednesday or so it comes out on the web, and they want to get it. This is instantaneous news these days. So also we have, when news stories break, Sean Radican does an excellent job of keeping things rolling with all the promotions and lots of news coming through. So,
if they want the real good stuff, they get the VIP version.
Oh yeah. I do some free stuff. You pay me a lot for this, and I do appreciate that.
Well, that guy's sheets of those cards you gave us.
And it helps with the helicopters. So
it's helping. I think it's getting better.
Yeah. So, but no, it's cool. And but I do probably most of my stuff, my podcast and my writing, behind the paywall. And we're one of the few. We're one of the few entities in anything that has a paywall that people know there's quality enough to do that. And I've been doing these podcasts, and I was doing your show long before I ever did podcasting, but 14 years.
I don't think the Torch was even on the web back when we did the radio show. I don't think the Torch was on the web yet. I think we're heading that way, but not there yet.
Yeah, it was barely a web. I think it was just, news groups and a few of that. So
here's a good idea. We could get with Flair's daughter, come up on a version of Charlotte's Web. How about that?
How about that? Yeah, I think that's
blog,
right there. Yeah,
little podcast, Charlotte's Web.
E.B. White kind of puts together my other career too, my other job. So yeah.
What about this? Let's change and go to a new topic. My topic, I brought this on the list. They come in the mental list. We talked about the WrestleMania, talked about Ring of Honor, a little bit of AEW. What about Tammy Lynn Sytch? She's almost like the female version of Scott Hall, just a train wreck waiting to happen, and it's happened again. It's very sad.
It is sad, and it's it just seems very much that Diamond Dallas Page and his yoga really bought some time for quality time, and their own fight back with Jake Roberts and Scott Hall, and of course there are ups and downs with that. But Tammy Sytch, it's a really sad deal. I think it's just alcoholism, and it's been she's had many chances, and you look at the charges and what she's done, and how little she's helped herself.
Every time she gets in trouble, she goes to jail. She gets out and gets in trouble again.
Yeah, she's beaten Scott Hall as far as jail goes.
She's got 5 or 6 DWIs here lately, and her lawyer, when your lawyer drops you, you're in trouble. He won't even defend you. I can't defend this person. They let you go. That's bad news.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a real mess, and then on the other hand, you're driving around. You're driving around with an open container, and you have that kind of record. Someone sees you, or you mess up, and that's what would happen. That's what happens to her. So, and she's back in jail. It's almost hard to even keep up. I've had this conversation. Is she in jail now, or she's not? And lately, last several months, she's been in jail.
Here's a question for you. You may know about this other since you're on the inside. Has she been to rehab at least once, twice, or more? She been to rehab?
WWE has paid for rehab so many times that they finally said they washed their hands of her, and then she got them to do it again right about the time that she went to that she got in the Hall of Fame, a few years ago, and then it didn't take with that either. And so there's a darkness in her, and it's really, I mean, and I think there always has been, and it's, you know, I think it got aggravated.
Did it get worse after Chris Candido, her boyfriend, died?
It was there before that, and I think it definitely got worse. And so
because you were kind of aware of those two back along, you knew that guy Casey O'Connor was kind of tied in with Smoky Mountain Wrestling, so you kind of had some insights on those guys a long time ago.
Yes. Casey O'Connor, who was just sold his consignment shop that he owned for the last 6 years and 6.5 years in Lander, Wyoming. I watched him on Facebook. Look at him on Facebook and said goodbye. Very eloquent and articulate. Like 45 minutes ago, Andy. So that was that was pretty cool to see. But there was, they were tight together then, and I mean, Candido and Tammy, and they were high school sweethearts, and quite the, you know, sometimes people, there's those relationships that there's love there, but there's also just, they're bad for each other too, and that was definitely one of those type of relationships. And it's, you know, I would see Tammy at Charlotte Fan Fest and various places like that, and I would talk to her, and
how was she to talk to?
She was awesome. She was very professional, and, you know, would tell me about all these positive things that she turned around and was going on in her life, and then I don't know.
At one time, she was doing major academic studies towards a major degree, wasn't she? At one time,
she would always say that. And the thing about it was that she, then later on that evening, I would be up having a libation or two, you know, at the bar, and I would see her, and she would be a mess.
She would have a libation or two too many, right?
Yes, and so it was, you know, I always wanted to bring her on the torch, but I didn't trust her. It's like I didn't trust that it would be there. But it was, it was just, you know, I think you know, wrestling can be a rough life, and
because you think it would get Scott Hall, you think it might get, Jake the Snake, think it might get those guys, Jake the Snake Roberts. Not sure about her, but it looks like now Tammy Lynn Sytch, it may get her. Yeah. She may go out the wrong way, in a bad way.
She's had a very hard go, and a lot of it has been self-inflicted. You know, a lot of it is, and it always is. But it could be, you know, I think there's been more concerted effort, and there's a generation now that's much more driven to be professional, driven to be, driven not to, you know, there's some things behind the scenes, but driven to not be out there just being the outlaw wild person. And, you know, that's fun and that's great until you can't control it. And
the hard part about it, you can go crazy, but the hard part is coming back after you go crazy. That coming back is very tough, and coming down is very tough.
It is, yes. So, you know, you see, I mean, it was, you know, around a younger generation of wrestlers, and a lot of times don't see the kind of behaviors and attitudes and, you know, inebriation that you would see if you hung out back in the 80s or the 90s.
And kind of on that same line of thinking, how are the Hardy Boys doing these days?
You know, they're in WWE. They just signed another contract. They're pretty happy. I should say that they, Jeff Hardy just a couple of months ago was right over there at the corner bar. You haven't lived until you've seen Jeff Hardy sing.
He has a guitar too, right?
He had a guitar player. Guitar player was pretty good. Mm-hmm. Jeff was
just vocals only.
Vocals only, and just sang some of his own compositions. You've heard some of them, you know, and on TNA in particular, and sang some covers, and you know, I give him credit. He was on key a good bit of the time. But they're doing fine. I mean, Matt Hardy is, you know, I think that they're looking at closing out their careers, but they still
never has taken off in the WWE like they thought it might, has it? It seems like every time somebody brings another idea from their other federation, you come in with the wildness that Matt Hardy had, his creations, all these sort of things he's working on. You bring it to another federation, at least with Vince, it never works.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, if you're a smaller company, and, you know, and AEW can promise this too, Impact can, Ring of Honor can in certain ways. In a smaller company, there's not levels of bureaucracy. There's not a creative writing team that's taking and looking at everything and mucking it up and making it harder to do. So it's just, you know, here's what we're going to do, and what do you think? Yeah, go ahead and do it. And that's that can bring.
That seems to bring Matt Hardy seemed to do best when he was allowed that kind of leadway.
Yeah, definitely.
That was his best work.
And, you know, Jeff Hardy's been I've been pretty amazed at Jeff Hardy's resiliency, because for, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, you wouldn't have thought that he was going to come back to the point where he could wrestle regularly, but it does.
He had that wreck on the bridge around Concord about a year ago. Now I hadn't heard anything since. That's pretty good.
So he's okay now. I mean, as far as, and then Matt, both very intelligent how to market themselves and what to do. And I expect that they'll be part of producing.
What about King Maxwell? What's that man up to these days? King Maxwell.
I think he's trying to hold on to his throne. He's got a younger brother that you know how that goes if you watch. If you watch
My Two Sons, good program.
My Two Sons. Yeah, I was thinking more.
Sanford & Son. Here we go.
Sanford & Son. I was thinking, what's the one? Kingdom, no, the Game of Thrones. So
okay.
I think it's a little more
modern.
I think right now it's turning into very rapidly Game of Thrones type situation there at Hardy Compound.
I thought it was a great thing that Matt Hardy did. He came up with so many different crazy things. That kind of a low budget operation, he was able to prosper.
Yeah, and he was able to market himself and get some attention. It wasn't enough to turn anything over for TNA, but it really gave some life to.
They got a lot of attention. That big program at the Compound that time, down in Cameron. That got a lot of attention, at least on the web.
There was a Halloween program on the network.
Yeah.
It used a lot of the John Schuyler and a lot of the guys, the Scribe, and a lot of guys from around here. So Brett Stutz and a whole bunch of folks. So there's a North Carolina connection in pro wrestling that's still thriving between Hurricane Helms and the Hardys.
And then Trevor Lee's on the way.
Trevor Lee on the way, and there's a lot of talent here too.
What about Johnny Fairplay these days? What about Johnny?
Johnny Fairplay is working for Revolution Wrestling Authority, promoted by Julian Strauss over in High Point. And
High Point.
Need to get you over there. I mean, I think you would thrive over there. And he will be doing. Color commentary, and he's a bad guy, and he'll be with your good friend Matt Coon doing play-by-play. Wow. Matt Coon's first time doing play-by-play. I think Brian Pillman Jr. and this summer David Arquette. So
they're going to be in High Point and Thomasville.
High Point, yes.
Yeah,
High Point, and you haven't lived till you've seen a Revolution Wrestling Authority show.
Wow, that's a new one on me.
It would remind you of some things you saw in the past.
New dimension.
Yes.
Gotcha.
In certain ways, but many years past that. So Johnny's working some wrestling, and then he has.
Where is he living now, Johnny Fairplay? Johnny Dalton, his hometown of Danville.
Hometown of Danville. He does. So he has a Survivor podcast dedicated to survivors that's growing all the time, and he does meet and greets with Survivor contestants.
Now, he was a survivor himself.
Oh, no kidding.
He made it through that Danny Bonaducci body slam.
Yes, he did.
That was crazy.
There's all kinds of things Johnny's made it through. But he's made it through. And he's doing shows in Baltimore and in Ohio, and he did one in Durham that I got one of my teaching assistants, one of my friends who really does a great job, and I thought, I know she loves Survivor, so I arranged for her to go, and she was thrilled. I mean, I give them all credit, because her daughter went, and they loved it. So if you're a Survivor fan, check him out. Check out NSF, what does he call it? Anyway, but it's the Survivor podcast with Johnny Fairplay.
Type in Johnny Dalton in Google, you get a big page or two full of information, right?
Yeah, you might want to narrow that down. You get some of that. But he was a fan of yours. He was in the studio on the very last show.
And he was at the old ballpark when they had the wrestling New Dimension come in. That's kind of where we got his start, kind of falling through the stands and made his way to the ring.
He made his debut.
Barely to the ring.
Him and John Hitchcock. Yeah, barely to the ring. That was quite the entertainment extravaganza. Good baseball game, as I recall.
What's that?
I said it was a good baseball game, as I recall.
Yeah, good baseball game and a good wrestling match after the baseball game, and out in the outfield, good times. Yeah. What about our buddy Rick Chong trying to get his wrestling promotion going? He's talking about BC3, Barry Cohen III, Double H, Harold Hadnot Jr., and possibly B.J. Mulligan V. You think Chong's got a chance?
I think so. I think he needs a Russian assassin. I'd say that, and he needs some boogie woogie. I mean, over here at Beef Burger, I'd point that way.
Well, you got to load it. I was there last week, and that wall is full of Robbie Robbie McBride photos.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite independent wrestler, Robbie McBride. Yep, a big fan.
Have you seen him lately?
Yeah, I see him. I see him pretty often. Good guy.
Gibsonville mainly?
Yeah, Gibsonville, and I finally made it out to Riders in the Country to see one of those wrestling shows.
Oh boy!
It wasn't the most organized wrestling show I ever saw, but it was a lot of fun. It was, it was Roadhouse, the old movie Roadhouse. And
what's their federation known as down there?
I think Riders Championship Wrestling or something, but it runs about once a year if they're going to run it again.
Once a year.
George Ryder passed away, and they brought back the bar, but
I got you.
A little bit, but they had to close it down some. But I was just happy that after all those years, I just went down because I had a hell of a time.
It's a fun trip down there.
Yeah.
Old 220 on the left.
On the left, that's right.
Past the kind of level cross territory down there.
Yes.
Well, Bruce, some final thoughts as we head toward the future of wrestling over the next couple of days and weeks.
Just that this thing, this is a year where SmackDown is going to be on Friday nights on the Fox television network, and you're going to get sick of hearing about it on NFL, on the Fox NFL package, and there's all kinds of things in motion. We don't know whether it's
AEW is going to be where?
AEW is going to be on a major network.
Can't tell us which one yet.
Can't tell you which one yet. They haven't signed yet, but they have major offers.
If you had to make a stab at it, what would you say?
I would guess one with a T in its name, and maybe one that has some round ball going on. So
True TV?
No. Perhaps, I don't know. There's some,
TNT or TBS, right?
Yeah.
Looks like it.
Yeah. And
which is the better of those two, in your opinion? Is there?
I would say the one with the NBA.
Gotcha.
But it depends on how much money gets put down there, and there's other real suitors too. I mean, it's not just those two.
If those two fall outside the realm there, who are the other good suitors out there?
It's just a matter of them picking the deal that they want. So
WGN still in the mix?
I don't think so. I think WGN doesn't bring enough to the table as far
Spike
as
TV? It's not even Spike anymore, is it? Isn't it something else?
Whatever it is, I don't think so. I don't think you've got to have, if you're going to do this the way they want to do it, and you're going to be competition for WWE, you've got to have a network, number one, that itself draws enough viewers that you can, has enough of a big pool that
it won't be Destination America then, right?
No, it won't be Destination America or the Pulse or whatever that is, whatever the thing is that Impact is on right now. And so there's a lot of smaller ones, and then also one that's looking to invest, that's looking to pay for content and pay real money for content. WWE and UFC, which probably will help that UFC ESPN deal, thanks to Coach Mike Krzyzewski and the Duke Blue Devils, as you saw pushing, you're giving them that strong lead in every Saturday night. And Zion Williamson, you need a star. They signed a hell of a deal with ESPN, so it still might be that AEW can benefit from that in the idea that the WWE and UFC, the type of programming that people will watch and sit through the commercials, live sports programming or whatever you want to call it with pro wrestling, but appointment television, and they'll sit through it and see it and interact in social media, on Twitter and the other places to interact, and that'll be Instagram, and that'll be all part of it. So,
what's the next live event you'll be at? Next live event you're going to attend?
Live event, probably the next Gibsonville show.
What's the next pay-per-view or next TV event you're going to be checking out?
Might go to Las Vegas. You never know.
Wow.
So that could be the cards, and whatever comes here. And I will be at the Crockett Cup, as I told Dave Lagano, that Billy Corgan's NWA man.
Mm-hmm. How about this big guy before he goes? What about Willie Mack? I liked his work. He kind of reminds me of the Junkyard Dog, a bit heavier version maybe. Kind of reminds me of Willie Mack, kind of the Junkyard Dog. Yeah.
The
NWA champion. Yeah.
Yeah, NWA national champion. But as I told Dave Lagano, since I always try to connect it back up to the old barn down the street, that I was front row for the last Crockett Cup, so it'd be cool to attend this Crockett Cup. It was 1988, I want to say.
Wow.
87 or 88, so it's been a while.
Bruce, it's been a while since we saw you. We'll see you again sooner. Good job on your part.
Absolutely.
Nothing like the good old March Madness.
March Madness, yes. Yeah. Yes. It's all about the catchphrase.
I think Dusty would like that one. So good old March Madness.
I think
good for the business.
You know, his son is trying to get the rights to Great American Bash back from the WWE. So Cody is, and a couple other trademarks too. That'd be interesting to see. So, but all I know is, you know, if Ric Flair and Andy Durham are still rolling, me too.
All is good. What about Duke winning the national championship? Is it 99% probability?
No.
No.
Let's get past Virginia Tech. And I'll say this too. If Duke and Carolina end up in that national championship game, it might be Armageddon here in North Carolina.
Armageddon.
And, I mean, I think I've worried about that for years. I mean, whatever happens there's going to be some bad feelings for a long time, and it's not like that's going to rematch itself either. So that's and that, you know, it looks like. I mean, I think a lot of people pick that in their brackets, but I'm definitely, particularly with these freshmen, you can, you know, they can catch fire, and they have caught fire, and be like Justice Winslow's team and win the national championship. They can also have, you know, they can also turn the freshman at the wrong moment and be out. But it's been a hell of a ride. And God, I love Zion Williamson. I think even the Carolina fans, they won't admit it, but they love Zion Williamson too.
He is the top draw.
Yeah, and Coach Mike Krzyzewski, the greatest of all time. So.
What about that wrestler from Duke that was getting in professional wrestling? Did he ever get in? The guy from Duke?
I think he's on his way. I think Joe Briscoe is making a path for him. Yeah, I think he's, you know, he hasn't been signed to NXT yet, but I think that I think those things, as he wraps up his amateur career, I think he's going to be a professional wrestler. So the last professional wrestler that I'm aware of from Duke University was the great Ike Eakins back in the 1950s and 60s.
Wow.
So
well, how about the Duke basketball games on the radio? Can you get by now without Bob Harris? Do you still miss Bob?
I like David Shoemate, but yeah, I'll always miss Bob Harris. I like David Shoemate and John Roth. I went to high school with him. So
I remember that, yeah.
That's a pretty cool deal. And as long as Bucky Waters is sitting out in the stands watching the game, I'm good with that too.
I think as long as Mickey Krzyzewski's out there, you guys are okay.
I think so too. I think I think Mike Krzyzewski's from Army, but I think she's the general, no doubt.
She's the glue. Bruce, great job as always.
Always, Andy.
Keep it rolling. Rick Chong's wrestlers again. Don't forget BC3, Barry Cohen the third, Double H, Harold Hadnot Jr., and
Cowboy Chris, I think.
BG Mulligan the fifth, and
the
Cowboy
True Brothers. So they should have some kids coming up by now.
Chris is going to be ready, or Rick's going to be ready. Rick Chong.
Yeah, Rick Chong. I talked to him the other day.
RCW, Rick Chong Wrestling.
I'm like, that guy doesn't age. What's the deal with him?
He's only 41, he says.
Yeah, he's lying like a dog.
He's really 31. Take care, Bruce.